Miami Beat, your source for all things entertainment, where we bring you the pulse of Miami's vibrant music and cultural scene. From the salty rhythms of salsa and merengue to the energetic beats of popular music, we've got it all covered. Join us as we take you on a journey through the city's hottest clubs, festivals, events, and introduce you to the talented artists and performers who make Miami the cultural capital of the South. So sit back and relax with the Miami Beat. Now, here's your host, Rene Guim.
Crazy. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to the Miami Beat. Today I have the great pleasure of having Dr. Ed Calle as my guest. Dr. Calle, thank you for joining us.
Rene, thank you so much for having me. It's great to see you. Thanks for the invite.
It's wonderful to see you, Ed. It's been a while. We were talking about it off camera that the last time I saw you was when you performed in North Miami Beach. You opened for John Cicada. Wow, what a great intro that was. I mean, you had the audience on their feet. It was phenomenal. It was really great.
We have a lot of fun doing that and performing and making music. And John and I are great friends. We went to school together. And in fact, I have a new album out, and he's a guest on the album. He sings a couple songs. He sounds incredible.
Oh, that's terrific.
He and KC from KC and the Sunshine Band.
Is that album out now?
Yeah,
it is out.
Yeah,
and where can people
Soulful Nights?
Soulful Nights.
You can hear it anywhere on the streaming platforms.
And
we don't make CDs anymore. So
no, nobody.
It's all streaming platforms now.
That's great. So on any of the platforms, Spotify,
all of them, Apple, Spotify, YouTube,
Amazon, all those.
Everything. Tidal,
that's terrific.
All platforms.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about your background. You were born in Venezuela from a Spanish family. And when did you migrate to the United States?
I came here, I was about 9 years old when I came to the States. My father got an offer. My father spoke 5 languages, was really good at math, and we were in Caracas, and he met the owner of Yasa Airlines at the time. It was a private airline. And he offered him a job here because of the languages and the math. And so my dad saw an opportunity to bring us all over. And we came, and that was my introduction to America. I knew America and Venezuela from television. There was so much television and a lot of infrastructure because of the oil companies and all that kind of stuff. But Miami was such a different place back then. Miami was really a small town in many ways. And but I quickly became enamored with the culture and the people in school. And thanks to public school, I was able to get acquainted with the saxophone. That's where I met the saxophone for the first time. And the rest of it is history,
So you're a product of the Miami-Dade Public School System?
Yeah, Miami-Dade County Public Schools. I'm a big proponent of Dade County Public Schools. I just think the work that is done there and the quality of education is great. I spent a lot of time volunteering at different places. I'm on the board at MASS, which is a performing arts or an arts 8 through 12, and I sit on the advisory board. Miami Art Studios, and I spend a lot of time with kids in the community, always have, because I grew up in this community, and I was fortunate to have people come in and visit and be very helpful. So you want to give that back to the next generation of students, of musicians.
You have always been known for the individual that puts a lot back, that helps the young students and the people coming up, and people are grateful for that. You really are.
I'm grateful for the opportunity to do it. I think it's something that all of us, we get to a certain point in life that if we can help people cross a bridge faster and easier, then we have a responsibility to do that. And it's always great to work with young people because I remember being them, and I remember being that kid who was sitting in a chair with aspirations and you weren't really sure how to get there, or you didn't have a role model, or you didn't have those things. So that part of it is great, and I'm fortunate to be given the opportunity to do that in our community. I love our city. I love our community. I'm a product of it, and I always want to see everyone succeed and do well.
That's wonderful. That is absolutely tremendous. Dr. Ed Calle, when did you first decide that music was going to be your career?
It was by accident. My father received a note from school when I was in middle school, when I entered the 7th grade, to see if their child wanted to play in band. And back then, if your father asked you if you wanted to do something, you always said yes, because I came from a very strict kind of upbringing. And he asked me, he said, "Do you want to play in band?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. What instrument do you like?" "I don't know." He said, "What about the saxophone?" I said, "Okay." I had no idea. And there was kind of a connection from the very first day. One of the things that music did for me was that it gave me a voice when I didn't really have one. You know, I was always a shy kind of kid. I was kind of a nerd. And so the music allowed me to speak in a way that I wouldn't be able to speak otherwise. And I like music. And as far as a profession, it happened completely by accident. I guess I always had kind of a very identifiable sound and a style of playing, even though I was, very young. But I was probably 14 years old when people started to call me to play in bands and to do recordings for people and do those kinds of things. And it just turned out to be something that ended up being a career. I ended up working so much that it just happened. And then I decided to take it seriously at one point. I decided to take it seriously at one point with practicing and stuff, and it just fell right.
That's right.
When I got to college. So I never really practiced or took a lesson or any of that kind of stuff because we didn't have that kind of money till I was 19. And at 19, I just locked myself in the rooms over at the University of Miami. And the rest of it is a work in progress, I guess, but it's amazing what you can get done in 3 or 4 months if you really put your mind to it. And I was able to learn a lot, and then I've continued to practice and learn and all that stuff. And the objective always is to play better, to be a better musician and a better person and all that kind of stuff.
So you have a doctor's degree in music.
I have a doctor's degree in higher education leadership. My specialty is remedial mathematics. And the reason for that is that I promised my mom and dad, they didn't have the opportunity to finish school. They lived through the Spanish Civil War, mm-hmm. and my mom grew up with 12 brothers and sisters and all the other stuff. And so we had my father always said that, education is the most important thing. It's the one thing they can't take from you. And so I promised them that I would finish my studies, and I did. My mom got to see me graduate. My father died when I was very young, so he didn't get to see it. But I think it's important for many reasons. One is that there's always more to learn, and that's very important. And I continue to do that now. I'm always learning stuff. I have always been a student in that respect. But also as a Hispanic, very often they look at us as if we were less capable, less educated, less this, less that. And the reality of it is that that's just not the case. And there are not a lot of Hispanics with doctorate degrees. It's a small minority. And I really want to inspire the next generation of students to learn as much as they can and to specialize and to work on degrees that are going to help other people. And the stuff in my degree, especially looking at why we struggle so much with mathematics in this country at a time when we live in a digital age, when everything is numbers and computers and math, and is a problem. And it's a problem that we have to overcome. And so that part of it is fascinating. And the other thing is that as you get older, a lot of people tell you that as you get older, you have a hard time learning. But the reality of it is that as we get older, we know how we learn. And actually, I think we learn faster because we know how we learn. We can ignore all the static that a lot of times when we was young kids, we were forced into things that we don't really fit us. So that part of it was fascinating, and it's stuff that I can apply directly to the music. I've always been a mathematics person. Studied a lot of math and all that, so it's been part of my upbringing, and music is very mathematical. So at least the way I approach it. So it's all one big kind of happy family, crazy happy family.
It certainly is, and but it's a beautiful family because everybody seems to come together when they go into a studio or when they go on a stage, and everybody starts to perform. Everything just melds together, and everybody just feels like they're a family.
Yeah, the power of music, the ability to communicate with people who are close to you or people that you've never met before. I've had that experience, playing in Japan with a band of all Japanese musicians who I'd never played with. And we're making music like we'd known each other all our lives, And even though we couldn't really communicate language-wise, we used hand signals. I've had that experience everywhere. I've had it in Russia. I've had it in Korea. I've had it everywhere, and it's a wonderful thing. And the power of the communicative power of music is awe-inspiring. And when we use it for good, and the world today where there's so much static and there's so much stress, music is one thing that kind of bonds us all together, and it's great.
It really is. I want to share with the audience a little bit about your background, because this is something that is just absolutely phenomenal. Just I'm so impressed with it, and not only, I'm impressed with the fact that I have had the pleasure of meeting you, working with you, and watching you perform. But this is truly amazing. You are featured in 1,700 CDs and over 10,000 singles, and you have recorded royalty including Frank Sinatra, Juan Luis Guerra, Juanes, Celia Cruz, Arturo Sandoval, Natalie Cole, Michael Bolton, Christina Aguilar, Tom Dowd, Phil Ramano, Chick Corea, Michael Breck, Gloria Estefan, Greg Allman, Lenny Kravitz, the Bee Gees, George Clinton, David Byrne, the Wailers, Rihanna, Diego Torres, David Bisbal, the Pet Boys, Pet Shop Boys, Julio Iglesias, Oscar De Leon, J-Lo, and countless more. What was that experience like, performing and recording with all those artists?
They're all amazing. They're all teachers, really. And I think the biggest honor you can have in your career is when people ask you to record with them, to record for them on their music. I think that part of it, I've never lost sight of that. That's a big honor, and my job is to go in there and serve the music and serve the artist. And I've been very fortunate that I continue to do that to this day all the time. And probably the most important thing is to keep your ears open, your eyes open, and to keep your mouth closed and learn as much as you can from these great people. And I get to know them, whether it's Juan Luis or whether it's Gloria or Emilio or any of them, and really spend time in the studio and ask them questions about their process of making music and all those things, and it affects you. I listen to Julio and his vibrato and his command of the voice and the expression. Someone like Michael Bolton, where I did an entire record with him, and we sat like this, like 2 feet apart from each other, just interacting. We went out to dinner, and I saw him, the way he treats his audience so nicely. People just wouldn't stop asking him for autographs, and this guy just would not stop signing and taking pictures. And you learn a lot about humility. And these are we're talking about some of the greatest musicians ever, some of the greatest artists ever. And I'm just fortunate to be there and to be a part of it. And I'm very proud of the fact that as a Hispanic in America who grew up in the public education system, here you have a kid who came here and ends up playing a solo on a Frank Sinatra record or a Gloria Estefan record or a Michael Bolton record. I'm not just in a section, I'm playing solos for them. In fact, with Natalie Cole, I heard it on the radio and I was taken back. I forgot. But it's a track that she recorded that they brought her dad's voice onto the track. And I'm playing the saxophone solo and I'm thinking to myself, if I had told my father that this would happen, my father would not have believed it, And so those are the kinds of things that you never forget, that you're always very thankful for, and they're really a blessing. And all I can do is keep working at it, and try to be better and keep doing that. And that part of it is great. But it's what an honor that is.
Well, you certainly have accomplished that, and you've done a tremendous job. But I want to go back a little bit, and I want you to tell me what it was like to be on the same stage with Frank Sinatra.
He was literally bigger than life. In the studio it was hilarious because you're looking at a living legend, but on stage, it was incredible. And he was already older by this point. I started playing with him. I was a young kid the first time I played, but we'd have a lot of instruments. The saxophone players in that book. I would have to play tenor sax and flute and alto flute and clarinet and soprano saxophone sometimes. There were a lot of things. But he always loved the musicians. He loved the composers and the arrangers. He would always announce who composed the song and who arranged the song. And his arrangers are the greatest arrangers in the history of the American songbook. And one of the times we were playing at the Broward Center, and we were all getting ready for the set. And you know, his rehearsal, when you show up to do that, they hire only the best musicians. So you're on stage, and the rehearsal maybe lasts an hour at the most. You do not look at everything that you're going to play that night. Most of it is sight read. And he can tell right away whether it's going to go or not. And he loved our band. He took us on tour, different places, Atlanta and all throughout the Southeast with Peter Graves and that. But one night we were lined up, ready to go, and he snuck up behind us and he goes, "So," with that big voice. And we all must have jumped about 3 feet off our chairs. And he went through and he asked each of us which was our favorite arranger in the book. And there were 5 saxophone players. And when he came to me, he asked me, and I said, "Don Costa." And he said, "Mine too." And it was an interesting thing. And I said to him, I said, the reason is that because usually if you're the first tenor player in a section like that, I'm usually either the first clarinet voice or the one of the lower flute voices. And no matter what line I was playing, it's always a melody. It's always something you can play by itself, and it sounds beautiful.
Sure.
And so that's a sign of a great arranger. It's sort of like playing, Mozart or Bach or Beethoven. But when you have those kinds of experiences, you never forget them. You just never forget that kind of bigger than life, the human aspect of it, taking time to speak with musicians and taking time and then to hear him do what he did, and on different nights when he was really on, he sounded like he was 35 years old.
Wow. And
it was magnificent.
Yeah.
And the audience, of course, that music was really the life soundtrack for so many people. And it's become that for all of us who are fans of his. When I got to record the solo, I'm on a track with he and Antonio Carlos Jobim, who wrote The Girl from Ipanema. So, it's the things that happen in your life that you can't explain. You're very thankful for them. And all you can do is just keep working at it and try to be better the next day.
Absolutely. No, that was wonderful. I recall there was one night where you performed at the, it used to be the Jackie Gleason Auditorium in Miami Beach, with Raul de Blasio.
Huh.
Oh, what a night that was.
I love Raul. Yeah, he's just an incredible talent. He's a great friend. I have to call him. I haven't called him in months, but he's an incredible talent. And we have a real connection when we make music. In fact, I saw him recently in the last year. We played, I was asked to play for Andrea Bocelli's birthday party, just some solo saxophone. And so I show up, and they said, "Oh, there's a piano player's coming." And it's Raul. And Raul looks over, and here we are, who have played together for so many years, and we're playing for all the A-listers, and all that. And just a great experience. But he's an incredible artist, incredible musician. He's an incredible pianist. He's also a brilliant, brilliant man, got a great personality. He's a great friend. He's full of life, he's that kind of thing. He's some talents about him. He can write in opposite directions at the same time with either hand. It's uncanny. So his dexterity on the piano is no coincidence. He has this ridiculous ability, but a great musician, and his music really reaches the audience.
Yeah.
And that's part of my career. Is so much fun that I get to do all kinds of music. One minute I'll be playing real jazz or serious jazz with Arturo. The next minute I'm playing people music with Raul, or playing with Julio, or playing with Gloria. And that part of it is really fun.
You just, a couple of minutes ago, you mentioned Antonio Jobim, and I would like for you to share a beautiful song, if you would, please. This would be a real pleasure to hear you play this song.
This is
Girl from Ipanema.
The Girl from Ipanema. I think it's a song everybody in the world knows, right?
Yeah, everybody knows it, and you do a tremendous job in playing this.
He wrote such great music.
That's wonderful. And you had the pleasure of performing with him, right?
Recording with him, yeah. It's really, really incredible. I'm such a big Joe Beam fan. Well, who's not a Joe Beam fan? But I'm a huge fan of his, and his music is timeless. The Brazilians, he and the rest of the Brazilians have a beautiful way of incorporating more complex harmony than we are used to in our pop music. Brazil is influenced by the French and a lot of other people, and his music is very rich harmonically, and so the jazz musicians love to play it because it gives us an opportunity to improvise on harmonic structures that are very interesting. I was told that one of the reasons why the music that he made sounds the way it does is that when they were composing that music, they were living in these apartment buildings in Rio, and they couldn't play loud. So they had to make music with acoustic guitar, maybe a little piano, but it was very subdued. And that's part of the sound of that bossa nova. It's a very subdued, very seductive, pretty sound. And surprisingly enough, it has something to do with the environment in which it was created.
Yeah, I know. It sounds phenomenal. I mean,
it's beautiful music.
It's a beautiful music. I absolutely love it. I want to talk about all the things that you're recognized for. In 2018, some of the accolades are South Florida Music Hall of Fame nominee, Best Professor, Miami-Dade College, United Teachers of Day Champion of Education, King of Carnival, Dr. Ed Calle tenure. You're a tenured professor of music business at Miami-Dade College and a frequent guest artist and lecturer at schools, colleges, and universities around the globe. So you travel to all these places and lecture and teach all these students.
I spend a lot of time in the air doing that, and wherever I go to perform, I always spend time with students. In particular, when I travel to Latin America, and I travel all across the U.S., but it's very important to me, in particular with the kids in Latin America, because so many of them don't have the opportunities that we have here with the educational system's a little different and all that. And right now, in fact, I was a couple of months ago, I was asked to lead the academy, the Latin Diodario, the foundation has an academy in Latin America where we provide free lessons online for students in the Spanish-speaking Americas and the Spanish-speaking world. And so it's just a great opportunity to give back and to promote the next generation of musicians. And I think, because I'm on so many records and those people know me in all these places, I just want them to see that it's possible for them as well. That it isn't just a one in a 1,000 or 1 in a million thing. That it's available for everyone. And if I can make that happen, then I think that might be my greatest gift or my greatest legacy in terms of that. The music is wonderful, but there are more things to do in the world. Helping people is very important.
Well, certainly your legacy and your history and all the things that you have contributed, not just to this community, but on a global basis, are absolutely tremendous. I commend you for that.
Thank you.
Talk about your latest release that you just put out. You put something out just recently.
Yeah, Soulful Nights. My two great friends of mine, Hal Batt, who's a legendary record producer, and Mike Lewis, who's the man who wrote all of those arrangements for Casey and the Sunshine Band, for the Bee Gees, and for Bobby Caldwell, and great writer. They called me and said, "Hey, we'd like to make a record with you just playing." So they asked me, "Would you like to have anybody be a guest?" And I said, "Well, I'm friends with Casey, and I love the way he sings."
So Casey is actually on the album?
I think it's the first time in his career that he's actually singing without his band.
Wow, that's amazing.
And he's a very humble guy and a great artist.
Yes, he is.
He's a legend, and he's a great friend, and I love him. And Cicada, John Cicada, who's we grew up together at UM, and
two legends.
He's literally a living legend. And so they came and sang on the record, and it's really a pretty record. It's a people record. It's a smooth jazz record. And it's a great record. It's done very well on radio, on the charts, and all that kind of stuff. And people can hear it now on streaming anytime. So you can just find it at Calle Soulful Nights. And I'm very thankful for Mike Lewis. A lot of the compositions are his, and Hal Batt, who's just a great producer. He's produced everybody from Julio on down. Does a lot of work with American artists as well. And just a lot of fun to make music and to make it with your friends and people that you look up to. You know, I have, funny enough, I look up to most musicians, a lot of musicians. I have great admiration for my colleagues, and a lot of them in this town. A lot of them are famous, a lot of them not so famous. But it's a big community. It's a great fraternity. You know very well.
Oh, yes.
We're very thankful for you and all the opportunities that you provide for all of us at the venue and throughout the city. And we're blessed to live in a community like this that's so talented, and everybody is really working together. It's a nice thing.
I had the pleasure of meeting Mike Lewis, and what I thought was going to be like about a 10 or 15 second conversation turned into about half an hour. He is amazing.
He has done everything. Talk about Miami legend, one of the people who really built this city. You know, there's Mac Emmerman from Criteria, there's the Bee Gees, Peter Graves, Whit Seidner, and there are more, but these are the cornerstones of our music here in the city.
The music industry in Miami.
Casey. You look at what they've done, and then of course Gloria and Emilio, what they did for, and you know, probably the biggest honor I've ever had in my life was to be named King of Carnival, because when you look at the list of those people, Desi Arnaz, you know, Pitbull, and
Desi was the
very first one, and to follow in that tradition. And Desi was an incredibly important part of the Miami music scene.
Yes, he was.
You know, this is one of the founders of that thing. And so when I get to work with people like this and Mike Lewis, and they are the founders of this movement, of this music, and the rest of us are doing our best to maintain that standard. And I'm thankful for them. But Mike is somebody that everybody should know, because he can tell you everything about everybody from ground zero.
Yes, he can. He certainly did. And I truly enjoyed that conversation with Mike. It was just absolutely amazing. But
brilliant musician.
Brilliant musician and a phenomenal composer. A terrific arranger.
I always say he always writes things for me that make me sound good. He's a magician with that stuff. And you know, how lucky can you be? How lucky can anyone be to have people like that in your life that make you better?
Absolutely.
Whit Seidner and Gary Lindsay and the rest of those people that are, without them, I wouldn't exist.
There's one song that I always enjoy listening to you perform, and I'd like for you to play that for us, please, and share this with the audience. The song is called Europa.
Yes, Gato Barbieri is probably one of my biggest influences. I got a chance to meet him. Spend time with him.
You told me about that. You told me that
it's a great experience at the Grammys, giving a Lifetime Achievement Award, and I just love him, and he had a tremendous impact on all of us who play the saxophone, especially all of us who are Hispanic and play the saxophone. But I always play this song because it's a song that everybody knows and everybody loves. Santana wrote it, he and Tom Coster, but Gato made it famous.
Beautiful song. Fantastic.
Those songs never get old. They're such great songs, and you know, at the end of the day, it's all about playing for people and making music that touches their heart, and these songs do it very well, and I'm fortunate to be able to do it all the time.
I remember the first time I heard that song, I couldn't stop listening to it. I mean, it's just such a catchy tune, and it's just so wonderful to hear Gato Barbieri play that. I mean, it was just an amazing song.
He was a magnificent talent, and that album, the Caliente album, for me, is one of the most important albums probably in the history of jazz, or what we call smooth jazz. It's literally, you can listen to it now and it still sounds fresh. And that album was made, I believe, in 1977. So he had it going on way back.
I'm sure he did.
And a great composer, a great saxophonist, great guy, really a humble person, very, very nice to me, as have all the Giants been with me, whether it was Dizzy Gillespie or Chick Corea or Michael Brecker or any of them, Tom Dowd.
But you deserve it, because you certainly are that.
We're working at it.
We're looking at it. Ed, thank you so much for being on our show today. It's been truly a pleasure and honor
Thank you,
to have
Rene.
you here. Next week, we have the pleasure of having Louis Martinet, who is the producer-composer of Expose, a phenomenal DJ, but he actually created Expose. So tune in next week, 1 p.m. on Friday afternoons. Thank you for being on Miami Beat. Thank you, Ed. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate having you here
Thanks,
today.
Rene.
It's been